On behalf of 91 and our Women and Investing series, I'm delighted to welcome Jonel Matthee-Ferreira to our conversation this afternoon. The topic is investing in yourself and your future. And it's an honor to have Jonel here this afternoon. Jonel is currently CEO of ABSA Multi-Management. She and her team are responsible for over 33 billion in assets under management. Jonel comes with 20 years of industry experience, spent 8 years at ABSA Multi-Management, much smarter than I am, did a BCom in maths cum laude, went on to do an MBA, and has really been through various market cycles in selecting asset classes and managers. And Jonel, lovely to have you here this afternoon at our 91 offices. To kick off our conversation is to ask you, where did it all start? Your interest in investment markets. You studied maths, did very well in that clearly. But what was your first sort of experience in getting to know the investment world and deciding this is the career for you?
Thanks, Natalie. It's an honor to be here. And I think I don't have one of those stories where I started investing when I was 10 years old and bought my first shares. I was in a small school of Bredasdorp, grew up there, and loved maths. And then it was a decision, what do I go and study? And because I loved maths, one of my teachers said to me, become an actuary. So I started studying actuarial science, but quickly realized, no, that's not for me. Finished my BCom maths degree, and then I did my honors in business management. And I think that's the first time when the investment story started to become very interesting. We did play the ShareNet game, or one of those games where you have to buy your top shares in your honors class. And then I was fortunate to go and study for an MBA in Belgium. And I did my MBA in financial management, came back to South Africa in 2001. It was just a change of the millennium. And I was like, okay, I've got an MBA degree. I'm going to apply for a few places. And now I'm starting my investment career. But it was that time, 2001, that there wasn't any opportunities really. So I was very lucky to start at Plexus Asset Management and worked under Liston Meintjes, the founder of Fort and Meintjes, and he was an unbelievable guy to work under and to be a mentor. And since I started there, I just fell in love with it. I was always involved in more the multi-management side, where you have the opportunity to engage with all the different companies. And I think what makes it exciting as well is there's never a day that's the same. So it's ever changing. So that's basically where my career started. I fell in love with it and I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
So you touched on earlier that there's never a dull moment in a day, being involved in the investment markets. I can definitely relate to that. Just reflecting on the past 18 months of our lives have changed dramatically with COVID. Yes. But if you look back in your 20 years, which other moments were in an investment environment really a challenging time where you had to make pretty tough decisions about managers or strategy?
Yeah, I think if you think about the past 20 years, I think we've forgotten about all the cycles we've been through. I think now we're also into COVID that we only remember that, but there's been so many. The dot-com bubble was there, 9/11 was there, the global financial market collapse was there. There's been so many different technology collapses. So I think the most important part for me and what I've learned through the 20 years is that you, in a time of a crisis, never make decisions then. You must believe in your process, your philosophy, and when anything like that happens, don't make any changes. Just keep to your managers you've selected, keep to your asset classes, and I think we've seen the different cycles. There will be a correction. I know sometimes it's very difficult to think how can something recover 50%, but it does happen. And I think with experience in the industry, you actually learn to just stay calm and just sit through the cycle. So I think that's actually the most important lesson that I've learned. And also, don't fire a manager when he's doing badly, because it's a different cycle that he's in. And most often he will recover, and he will actually recover more than what he was down. So it's very important to not make a decision, sell a manager that's down, for example, and then you buy him back again when it's at a high. And also with a sector, for example, when property tanks 50%, if you had property, yes, it needs to recover a lot more, but don't make dramatic decisions when you're in the middle of a crisis.
Fantastic. And if I look at your results, you have really stayed the course with a lot of managers, and
Yes.
the performances come through, particularly on your offshore manager selection.
Yes.
You've done an excellent job, fantastic performance from those managers as well as the domestic managers, and been very patient. So on the topic of patience and staying calm, on a more personal level, how does one manage the work-life balance? You've got a massive responsibility. You've been in the markets and the industry for long, but I also know your family is very important to you. So how does one ensure the balance, stay calm, be patient? A lot of the lessons we've learned through investments in one's personal life and the work-life balance aspect, particularly pre-COVID, you would travel immensely. I think recalling, traveling to Johannesburg, traveling abroad a lot. Any lessons or advice you could give to the rest of the career women or women out there with aspirations, younger women with aspirations to join the investment world?
Yeah, and I would say I learn every day, and I try and balance it every day, because it is difficult to balance the work-life balance. I've got 2 daughters of 6 and 8. And I think also you learn so much through your career. It was difficult coming into this industry. It's not always easy as a woman. When myself and you started our career, most likely we were most of the time the only female sitting around a table. So you learn to just go in there, fight your fight, and be recognized for who you are and for what you've worked for. The balance, it's not easy. What I've done a lot of times when my kids were small, you take the 6 o'clock flight to Joburg, you fly back the late night flight, not to miss too much time away from home. I did take about 2 years where I didn't travel international. I started traveling international again just before my little one was 2. And it's never easy, but I think it's just also to make sure you spend quality time with the family when you are with the family. I think pre-COVID and post-COVID, it's such difficult conditions. We're all still working from home. So I think it's actually a bit more difficult with COVID and working from home, because you're at home the whole time. So office and home, there's no break between the two. So although you feel you're at home with the kids the whole time, we have to remind ourselves all the time that you're there, but you're actually not present because you're working and thinking about working or busy in a meeting. So I would say it is definitely possible. I believe I'm a better mum to my kids with working. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those women that would be able to sit at home and not work. The challenges, the excitement of the career, that's what keeps me going and make me a better mum to them. And also, I think what I'm trying to teach them as well, don't give up, keep going. It is tough for us to work, to being a full-time mum. There's always something that they need, but it is possible. And I think the most important thing is planning. I attended the 7 Habits course this year for a refresher, and the most important point is plan. Yes. So plan your week. I still get distracted. I'm busy in a meeting and the SMS come through or something is needed somewhere, and it's difficult, but you actually have to plan your day. Make times when you're in a meeting, you're fully engaged in the meeting. When you're done with the meeting, you take 10 minutes, you attend to different personal stuff. I'm also one of those people that make lists. So the poor people working for me, they each get a list, and they've got to do that. I'm also quite a perfectionist, so I time everything to the minute. So there's a list for everything what to do, and I think that helps me to just plan. But it's definitely possible to have a successful career and to have a successful family life.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And looking at your daughters and your younger self, is there any advice you would give them, reflecting back, at your younger self, and any advice you'd want to give them or want to see, differently, in terms of also a very different world they're in now? In our era, it was a much more traditional approach. Now, they've got climate change, they've got sustainability. It's a very different work environment and world we're living in. So what, from an investment perspective, would your advice to your daughters be? And, anything about, them as younger selves into the future?
I think if I look at where we are now, I think the technology is the biggest things that's changing. I think my 8-year-old, she teaches her grandmom how to do voice recordings, etc. So I think they're so far advanced from where we grew up with the technology and what they see. I would just tell them as well, and I'm trying to motivate them to take every opportunity they have. I think our children are so fortunate to have so many opportunities. So So what I would advise everyone to teach their younger children is just take every opportunity they have, go full at it, experience everything, because there is a stage in your life where you have to make decisions on what you want to do. But while you're young, just try everything, enjoy everything. And I think the most important thing we can teach our kids is start saving early. I think we don't actually realize it, and now after 20 years, while your own investments are compounding, you're actually only realizing it. Yeah, everyone shows you the graph and how it's working, and we see the compounding graphs per annum every year. But if you look at your own money, your retirement, you can actually see the effect. So I think the most important thing to teach your children is start saving whenever you can. Go for every opportunity and just gain as much experience and knowledge what you can before you make decisions on where you want to focus your career on. I also think our kids, my daughters can do everything. They can choose netball, hockey, whatever they want to try, but I'm choosing coding for them. So my 8-year-old is coding at school because I believe the future is actually AI coding. There's going to be so many opportunities in that area. So I think just them as young children getting opportunities like that, learning things like that, is going to help them in the future.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And if you, in terms of, again, asking you the question, looking into the future, I mean, what is your take on looking at working women a decade from now? How do you think the world's going to look a decade from now versus even today?
Yes.
We see how quickly things are changing. Looking into a crystal ball, how would you like to see it for women in the workplace, women's contribution in society, leadership? How would you see the next decade play out?
Yeah, I think how it's actually changing, and it's interesting. I spoke to someone from Germany the other day. We've got a lot of EE focus in South Africa, and I'm very proactive to that, giving everyone fair opportunities. And it was interesting in Germany now, he's building a new team for a big international company. He's only allowed to employ females in the workplace. And I was asking him as well, but do they get a financial benefit? Do they pay them more? And he said, no, they actually pay them equally. But he said they struggle to get good female people to come and work for them because the companies the females work for take care of them so well. They give them so many opportunities because they understand how valuable they are. And I think what actually brought our lives maybe 5 years forward is COVID, with working from home. I think it was still difficult. You also work for a corporate. We all see what the different corporates are doing, but it was still difficult for someone to think someone can actually work from home 8 till 5 days a week. It was just something that no one really thought is possible. And now the last 2 years, myself, I haven't been back to the office in 2 years. And if you look at the last 2 years, how successful it is actually able to happen. Yes. So I think that's going to help women a lot, because it's not that expectation you have to be in the office every day full time. So if you have a young family, you can probably start working earlier when you're off on maternity leave. Just be in touch with that, because you can successfully work from home. You can work for an international company these days and actually be in a different country, because we've all seen it can be done. So I think I also see a lot more females in senior leadership positions. Yes. I still believe females bring a different dimension to the workforce, to being in CEO positions. I still think there's quite a gap in having females in leadership positions, but it's also not that easy. I still believe, or I think women, you need to start at the bottom and work yourself, get that experience, because that makes you a better leader. But I just think there's a lot more balance. And I think I also see where the balance comes in. I think flexible time is going to be there a lot more often. People can start working at 4 till 8. They can take some time with their kids for 2-3 hours and work again from home. I think we've changed that perception that 8 till 5 is working hours. Yes. Everyone in the office work 8 till 5. I think you actually deliver. Sometimes if I think what I do from home, I do more in just a half day than I would have done stuck in traffic 90 minutes. Being at the office, because there is a lot of social interaction in the office as well. I think it's very important to have that, but I just think there's going to be more focus on when you work. Yes. And I still, as I said, I still think you have to go into the office, you have to have that culture built, but I think there's going to be a bigger focus on you can actually work from anywhere and have a better balance going forward. And as I also said, more senior females in executive positions.
Absolutely. I think the hybrid model is very much here to stay. And I think it's going to ensure that top female talent continues to join our industry in particular and elsewhere. And I think it's a fantastic, it's a golden era for the investment world for women.
Definitely.
You know, and I think that's really, really exciting. I think the other thing, you know, that's interesting for me is 20 years in our industry is a long time. 20 years in the South African investment markets. What makes you still get up in the morning and be excited? I mean, you've done an amazing job from a leadership perspective, also in having a very loyal team behind you. You know, so, you know, I think women in leadership positions, you've proven to be extremely successful in building a loyal team, a good business. But what still makes you excited about when you wake up in the morning and doing this? You know, we've only got investment universe in South Africa. What makes you excited still?
Yeah, I think where my career has also changed quite a bit. I started as a research analyst. I went over to a portfolio manager. So I went through the different stages. I think what keeps me going now is seeing how people actually progress in their career. So for me, I'm not that involved in the day-to-day management because I've got a fantastic team under me, but there's a few people in my team that have never studied. They're busy with their honors degrees now. So to motivate people and to have that mentorship element to them and to say you can do it, that is actually so rewarding to me. And I think also what makes it interesting for us in our industry, we don't know what tomorrow is going to happen. The rand might collapse with 10%, the oil price might go up, gold might change. So there's never a day that's the same. It's changing all the time. So I think that keeps the excitement. But I think what keeps me going is sharing what I've learned and giving strategic direction to the team and building new leaders for the future.
Fantastic. And Jonel, two last questions before we wrap up. The one is, you know, to everyone out there, what would your sage words be given where the markets are at the moment in terms of asset classes? You know, what asset class makes you excited, be it an offshore asset class or a domestic asset class? You know, where would you, you know, put money right now, or what excites you? So not recommending any particular managers, but more in terms of which asset class does one look at the moment. South African cash, South African bonds, global stock market, the US with a tilt to the US. You know, where would you put your money over the next 12 months?
I was actually reading an article during the week again around long-term investing and all the research showing, I think the research was done over the last 121 years. And the only place you can actually invest in is equity. And as we said, it's difficult. You see your equities go down 10%, but you have to be in equities, South African equities, global equities, because that's the only place where you're actually going to have inflation-beating returns for the long term. But I think over the next year, 2 years, I still believe equities. It's a stock picker's market. You can't invest your money in the top 10 or the Aussie 40 and think you're going to make money. I think it's very important to have fund managers that stock pickers. I still think value is a great place in any portfolio. If I look at how value is recovered and how far value is still from the grow value debate, there's so many opportunities still for some of our value shares that sold off so dramatically. So my view would be local equities, but as I mentioned, stock picking and global equities. Property has recovered, but I still think COVID isn't over. There's so much pressure on office space, particular because no one is going full-time back to the offices. There's storage, that type of property, yes. But if I look at property as a class, I still won't really invest in it. I will give a small allocation, 5% maybe, because I still think it's great from a diversification benefit. Cash is quite low at the moment. You don't beat inflation. I think inflation is also on an upward trend. So I would say global equities, definitely. I think if we think about the US market that has rallied so much, but there's 4 or 5 shares that rallied so much. So also your value type of stocks in the global market as well. So if I have my own money, I would invest in South African equities, global equities with a bit of a balance to the other asset classes just for diversification.
Fantastic. And speaking about value, but on a more personal level, the value of time with your family, because time is obviously very precious. What do you and your family do in your spare time? How do you relax on a slightly lighter note in finding that work-life balance?
Definitely. So we love wine farming. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but when my kids wake up on a Saturday morning, they ask me, where are we going? So it's probably also a reflection on me because I don't sit still and I love to be out there and going. So they ask me, where are we going? So we love going to wine farms. Luckily, a lot of wine farms in South Africa and in Cape Town is very children friendly.
Yes.
So I would say food and wine is our hobby. And I also believe in keeping fit. I think that's my sanity, that little hour a day. I'm not a fitness fanatic running the comrades doing Ironmans, but I try and train like 3 to 4 times a week, even if it's just for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, but just to think about myself as well. I still believe you have to look after your own health as well. So I would say definitely a balance between some fitness related and then having a great glass of wine and a fantastic plate of food.
I can relate to that. Thanks so much, Jonel, for your time, for coming to our offices today here in Cape Town. It's a beautiful day outside. So I'm sure you're keen to get home, maybe catch up on a bit of work to family then. But yeah, thank you very, very much on behalf of 91 and the Women and Investing series. Thank you so much.